Coach Matt LaFleur told him if he could hit a 58-yard field goal, the offseason was a wrap, and he did just that. There's still a lot of time before training camp gets going and then the season, but LaFleur does like where the group is right now. He didn't want to put any kind of specific expectations on the team, but made clear his feelings on what they could be in 2025.
I think we're capable of being a really good football team, a really good competitive football team, but it's not just going to happen. Again, it goes back to the work, and collectively, we need everybody to be their best individually in order to be the best team we can be, and it's not going to be easy. We know that. But those guys have embraced every challenge we've put in front of them. So I'm excited about this group, but ultimately we got to go do it.
The end of the practice also featured team president Mark Murphy being gifted a helmet with the signatures of the team, and he got to break down the huddle. Murphy's 17-year tenure will come to an end at the end of the month as he reaches the mandatory retirement age of 70. Again, the team is now off until training camp starts next month.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are opening up a series against the Cardinals tonight at American Family Field. Earlier today, reported that pitcher Aaron Civale requested a trade following Pat Murphy's decision to move him from the starting rotation to the bullpen. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
So the Brewers, of all teams, seem to have something of a starting pitching surplus. And today, their top prospect, Jacob Misiorowski, is coming up to make his major league debut tonight at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. And because the Brewers want to add Misiorowski to their rotation, they are moving Aaron Civale to the bullpen. They gave him that news yesterday, and at that time, Aaron Civale was not happy, as his manager Pat Murphy said, and his agent Jack Toffey requested a trade through Brewers general manager Matt Arnold. I have a story up with Will Salmon about this particular situation right now. And you can understand Civale in his free agent year not wanting to go to the bullpen, where he has never pitched except one time in relief last year during the wild card series against the Mets. That's his only career relief appearance, 122 career regular season starts. And at the same time, the Brewers, though, they have this abundance of starters and starting options. Nowhere among those names do you see Aaron Civale because he has been sent to the bullpen. But in Civale's case, it doesn't seem like he has a clear path necessarily back to the rotation.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Ken Rosenthal on his podcast, live show. I guess it serves as both. Everything is a podcast in 2025. Every radio show is a podcast. Every podcast is a live stream. Every radio show gets live streamed, and every podcast goes live on YouTube. So what is anything anymore? But that's Ken Rosenthal and Atlanta Rizzo earlier today on Fair Territory, I believe. But I think it's published through the outlet Foul Territory. Let me restart. That's Ken Rosenthal sharing some of his reporting and some of the information that we know about what's going on at the Brewers and Aaron Civale. That's where I want to begin tonight, so I just cut up a little bit of that sound. Threw it in the intro. I thought that'd be a good way to start. We're not going to dwell on the Brewers for the full 2 hours. We had a lot of Brewers last night. We're going to get into a lot of Packers as mandatory minicamp is now wrapped, and you heard Zach mention that in the update. Mark Murphy with a nice little send-off, and Brandon McManus hitting a field goal at the end. Not a lot of drama this week. Elton Jenkins was there. He's waiting on a new contract. We knew that. That's nothing crazy. It's not like he was away from the team or, doing some sort of controversial press conference in front of his locker. Very simple, very straightforward. Not a lot of drama this week. In fact, the most interesting story might be like the last wide receiver on the roster playing some cornerback. So not a lot of drama, but we're certainly going to recap the week. We will do that with Mike Clemens, specifically at 5:30, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay, where he is holed up at this very moment, I would imagine, cutting sound and pouring over all of his notes and all the audio in his recorder from this week. So we'll connect with him at 5:30. Curt Hogg is going to join us from the ballpark at 4:30 to talk not only about this Civale trade request, but lost it at all a little bit today. Jacob Misiorowski is going to make his debut tonight against the Cardinals. And lost in that, which was lost in Civale, is the Brewers kind of need to get right these 4 games at home before going back out on the road. And the Cardinals are reeling a little bit. They've lost a few. Now, I think the Cardinals have played with more zest and more pop in the last week or so. They have not been lighting the world on fire, but they look like a team with some life. The Brewers have looked the opposite, which is what we talked about last night. So all that on the table tonight, including your phone calls at 608-321-1670. This is the Wisco Sports Show. Thank you for being here. The show presented by Kai's Chevy Town, just off exit 41, Interstate 94 in Menominee, a short drive from anywhere. And you can start your process of looking for your vehicle or scheduling service, ChevyTownUSA.com. They say be wise, see Kai's for the best buys. Let's start directly with the reporting of Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal at The Athletic. Will Salmon, of course, used to cover the Brewers for The Athletic before they kind of condensed their baseball reporting. He now covers the Mets, but he has some Brewers ties and certainly a national reporter who can put out something like this. There are a couple of nuggets in here that are worth picking at and talking about. Toffee, his agent, said, this is directly from the story, the conversation is very professional. I said very respectfully that Aaron would like an opportunity to continue his career as a starter. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, as we talked about yesterday. I'm reading now. This is not a quote, but this is from the story. The Brewers are one of the few clubs with a seeming surplus of starting pitching. Toffee told Arnold that the team was exploring options. Arnold did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Civale, who turned 30 on Thursday, has made all 122 of his regular season appearances as a starter. He did pitch in relief in Game 1 of last year's wildcard series, mop-up duty, in a game that they had already basically lost. He was the final pitcher to appear. The game was basically done. The Brewers acquired Civale, blah, 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 from last year. The promotion of Misiorowski, who will make his major league debut against the Cardinals on Thursday night, left the Brewers with a decision. Civale was the odd man out in a rotation that includes Peralta, Patrick, Priester, and Quintana, and other options at AAA and on the injured list, which I want to talk more about in a second. On May 26th, the Brewers demoted Logan Henderson. Right-hander Tobias Myers, a stalwart in the rotation last season, is also at AAA, while Cortez and Woodruff are working their way back from injuries. This is an interesting nugget from his agent, last name Toffee. I don't remember his first name. Quote, I've heard from other teams through their channels of communication that they have a plethora of starting pitching and are looking for trade partners, maybe not just on Aaron, but maybe another pitcher. That's my understanding. So the agent putting a little bit of something out there that maybe wasn't supposed to be out there. They're like, yeah, Brewers are looking to trade my guy, and the Brewers have called around on Civale. Now I would imagine they'll call harder, but if no one wants him, no one wants him, and I fear that might be the issue. But his agent Toffee putting out there, they're making calls on other guys too. Look at that. Look at this clown car over here. You know, not necessarily putting the Brewers on blast, but that's a nugget that he didn't need to share with Ken Rosenthal and with Will Salmon. Civale earning $8 million, matching Peralta for the highest salary among Brewers pitchers. The Brewers operating with the 24th highest opening day payroll often seek to create opportunities for less expensive options. And Misiorowski, the game's number 87 prospect, quote, Aaron is not angry or banging his fist on the table, but it's a little confusing because he did not pitch his way out of the rotation whatsoever. It's more of a subjective choice the organization is making. I'm not going to disagree with that. I feel compelled to add that Civale has not exactly been lighting the world on fire either, but he hasn't been bad. The Brewers have certainly seen worse pitchers take the mound for them in 2025. Forget what year it is. Civale was acquired last year. So those are the details. Just a little housekeeping. I wanted to pass that along in case you didn't have a chance to read a story about Aaron Civale today, of all friggin' people. Here's what I don't get. I get that if you are going to take someone out of the starting rotation, Civale probably makes sense, although I don't think he directly deserves it. But I get the Brewers' process there, I guess. But when you zoom out and look at other decisions the Brewers have made, trades, contracts, promotions, demotions, injury designations, bullpen starter designations, or even choices in their offensive lineup, when I zoom out and look at lots more decisions and designations and choices that they've made, I don't know that I see a coherent picture, a cohesive picture. I don't know that I see a picture that makes sense when you look at all of the different things that they've done this year. So what I did, this is classical old-fashioned way. I was actually looking for a whiteboard today. I tore Ebo's office apart. Sorry, Ebo, couldn't find one. I just grabbed some scratch paper. This is actually the game program, Illinois at Wisconsin last year, when John Tonje had, what did he have? He had 30-something, didn't he? I got the box score in front of me. I should be able to find it. Why can't I find it on here? whatever. Tanji, he only had, plus 17. He had 31 points. Forgot how to read a box score. Anyways, I was making some notes on the back of this game book that I had from a Badger basketball game last year. And in the middle of my little notes here, I circled, bring up Miz, send Civale to the pen, which leads to a trade request. That's kind of what we're talking about today. We'll build everything from off of that. Also on this sheet, I wrote decisions or circumstances that the Brewers currently have going. In one little bubble over here, I put Woodruff and Cortez, both coming back from injury. In another circle, I put Logan Henderson, ? A player who performed well, who then they optioned and has been in AAA now for a couple of weeks. And then on the offensive side, I circled decisions or designations or just things that I feel to be significant to the 2025 Brewers. I circled Contreras playing through a broken hand, and I circled just kind of as a duo, Caleb Durbin and Joey Ortiz starting every day. Ortiz hitting 188, Durbin hitting 204. Oh, Grant, batting average. What are you, a dinosaur? Yeah, okay, well, if they had any semblance of power or production anywhere, well, then maybe I wouldn't relegate it to batting average. But trust me, you've watched them play. That batting average is reflective of the job they've done. I don't understand sending Civale to the pen when you also have Woodruff and Cortez on the mend, you would assume at some point. I remain skeptical on Woodruff, but he's there. We can't just ignore him. So sending Civale to the pen is a Band-Aid type of move for now, but I don't think is reflective of any bigger picture cohesive process. Logan Henderson being down in the minors matters to me because if the Brewers are going to make any move or any designation, be it starter, bullpen, whatever, major, minor leagues, if they're going to make any designation, I don't think they can do so in good faith, claiming we want the best players on the field, we want our best 9, or in the rotation, we want our best 5. I don't think they can do that because Logan Henderson isn't up here. I also don't think they can say, well, look, we got to get our best 9 on the field. We're all in trying to win with this current team. I don't think they can say that in good faith when they're playing Joey Ortiz and Caleb Durbin every day. Do you want to win right now? And do you want to make decisions that are totally and fully based with winning right now? Or are you taking a longer-term approach? Okay, well, if you're taking the longer-term approach, does Misiorowski have to be up here right now? If you're taking the longer-term approach, why is Contreras playing through a broken hand, right? As you talk about all these different decisions or designations or choices or processes that the Brewers have made, or I don't know what you do with a process, but you get what I'm trying to say. When you look at all the different things, I just don't see a super cohesive path or plan of attack, which is significant for the Brewers because I think this whole strategy of getting as many bites at the apple as possible, right? Never going all in or all out, but kind of just maintaining. I think the success of that strategy is based on having a coherent plan from top to bottom. One situation has to make sense in concert with the others. One decision has to fit in concert with the others. One thing has to lead to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. Right? You get what I'm kind of trying to say? And when I just write all of these different things down on a sheet of paper and I try to connect them or I try to organize them or I try to color code them, they don't really make sense. So you want to stick Civale in the bullpen, fine, but then I want to see other actions and other decisions made that fit or that follow a similar strategy, right? If you're going to take a long-term approach, well, then I want to see decisions that make sense and fit with that strategy. And I'm getting a little bit of both. And I think that's how the Brewers are going to get themselves into trouble, right? I often said when Counsell was here and they were really humming from year to year to year with Counsell and David Stearns. When it was really humming, I often talked about on the show, and this was years ago, how from ownership to general manager to the rest of the front office to field manager, Counsell, everyone was connected and everyone seemed to be pulling the rope in the right direction. Not everybody had to love the direction at every moment in time, but you could at any moment in time pick this decision, that move, this designation. It's like, okay, that makes sense because they did this, and this is making sense because they also did that, this, that, and the other thing. And they've gotten a little spotty, gotten a little messy. That and a lack of talent this year and injuries to important players like Contreras and Yelich, I think that's affecting them and stinging them. And I think maybe that's part of the reason Civale is frustrated. It's like, well, how can you do this to me when you're doing ABC 1, 2, 3, XYZ? I would also question, and I'm going to ask Curt about this when he joins us in about 20 minutes. If I was Aaron Civale, as I request a trade, I'd be questioning, why am I here? Why did you guys bring me here? You brought me over last year in a trade for an infield prospect in early July when I wasn't really pitching all that well. He was fine, but it was a very Brewers move, I guess. We're going to identify a guy who we think has some nice traits, who might be a little underappreciated or maybe a little bit of a distressed asset. We're going to go get him, and we'll bring him in, and he'll be better here. And he was fine last year. But they also went and got Frankie Montas, who they paid like a pretty nice price for. And then this offseason, they signed Quintana. They bring in Nestor Cortez, and in the back of your mind, you're also wondering, okay, Brandon Woodruff at some point might be able to contribute for you. Misiorowski should also maybe at some point be up, so you know you have this group of starting pitchers coming, which, fine, but then why did you agree to an $8 million deal avoiding arbitration with Aaron Civale? This was all on some level predictable. This was all expected on some level. If I was Aaron Civale, I'd be like, why am I here? Why did you guys acquire me last year? He didn't make a start in the playoffs. He wasn't a big part of that playoff series. He pitched in mop-up duty in a game they had already lost. Payamps lost. Payamps, all right, lost. Yoel Payamps, as I've heard on the most recent broadcast before he got DFA'd and then elected free agency. Like, why am I here? Why did you acquire me last year? Why were you so intent on paying me this? They're paying him $8 million. That's not nothing. That's actually something for the Brewers, as Rosenthal pointed out in that piece of audio that I played for you. He's making the same amount of money as Freddie Peralta. So why were you so intent on acquiring me? And then why were you so intent on re-signing me when there were these obvious circumstances that were going to come up over the season that would make my role diminish? And now you want to send me to the pen? Okay, that's one thing. I'm making $8 million. And I watched his dugout availability with reporters about an hour ago. He's not being a pill about it. But if I were him, I'd be like, well, what's the point of this? You're going to tank my values. I'm trying to come back from injury. You're going to make me pitch out of the bullpen, and then I'm supposed to go attack free agency this offseason after this last year and change. It'll be since last year, July 3rd, when they acquired him. It's just very odd. The bigger picture process isn't really making sense, and I think it's to the detriment of wins and losses to the club in 2025, and it also doesn't serve Aaron Civale. And I'm not saying you got to cater to the wishes and the whims of every single player, especially when you're paying him $8 million, but it matters on some level. Typically, a player will not bitch and piss and moan at a decision like this if they feel like it's truly what's best for them. And truly, typically, what's best for a player is typically best for the team. What's good for the goose is typically good for the gander. I don't think this is an exception. If I were him, I'd just be confused. Like, what was this all about? And once you zoom out past the Civale thing, it's like, well, what's this about? And what's that about? I'm just failing to connect a lot of dots with the Brewers right now. And for a team that cut payroll and lost some talent in the offseason, that is not a recipe for winning more games than they lose and contending for a playoff spot. So I'll take your calls on this next. If you are interested and if you would like to chat about the Aaron Civale trade request, I'm calling it sarcastically the Aaron Civale sweepstakes, is now Matt Arnold. I would imagine he's been trying to trade him. Now he'll probably try harder. I'll discuss with you next. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Nowhere among those 9 names do you see Aaron Civale because he has been sent to the bullpen. But in Civale's case, it doesn't seem like he has a clear path necessarily back to the rotation. So he's making $8 million this season. The Brewers almost always want to trade guys making money, especially when they're not playing a significant role. He's requested a trade. There are teams clearly in need of starting pitching. We will see what this leads to in the weeks and days ahead.
It's the Aaron Civale trade request show. The Aaron Civale sweepstakes around the league is open. Take your calls on this. Curt Hogg going to join us in about 10 minutes. Live from the ballpark. They spoke with Aaron Civale about an hour ago. I was going to play some of that audio for you, but I couldn't get audio. And there was some great, Curt posted a great video. I saw our friend David Gasper did as well. The audio just isn't quite where it needs to be to play it over the radio. And I think for everyone to understand it perfectly. So we'll get the firsthand account of Curt, and we can talk about some of these bigger picture decisions that the Brewers making and get ready for Jacob Misiorowski's debut tonight as well. But first, some of your calls. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Sun Prairie.
Chad in Sun Prairie?
Yep, you bet.
Sorry, you cut out just a little bit. What's up, Chad?
Sorry, I'm, in the Bermuda Triangle of downtown Madison.
That's okay.
So I think the most obvious answer in this whole thing is the Brewers are not trying to compete. So, sell off? Is that what we're doing here?
Well, if they're not trying to compete, fine. Then I want them to do non-compete things. You know what I mean? I guess that was the point of my opening rant. It's like, if you don't want to compete this year and you believe that this team doesn't have what it takes, then let's do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I don't think they might be doing A and they might be doing D, but they're not doing B, C. I just want a clear and coherent strategy one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, that would be logical, but we're Brewers fans, and the illogical generally happens.
It's also a little early. Like, there is a month to go before the trade deadline, so it's not like they need to do it now.
Yeah, but, I mean, look at our trend line here. We were winning, and then all of a sudden this happens, and clubhouse cancer starts to kind of creep in.
I don't like that word. But here's an example. If the Brewers are going to be sellers at the deadline, the moment they make that decision, I want William Contreras shut down for the year. Get his hand fixed. You know what I mean? Like, the moment it happens and not a moment later. I think it's a little silly that he's playing with a broken finger. I think it's really hurt his chances and his ability to play at a high level at all. But I guess for now, that's fine. But the moment that we start making seller moves, or the moment that they believe that they can't contend or compete this year, then I want that. Let's do that. And let's do the next thing. And let's do the next thing.
So, again, I'm not the medical professional on this. The hand can heal itself.
Not when he's playing baseball. He needs surgery.
Yeah,
that's a pretty gnarly injury, and that's been reported.
If he for sure 100% needed surgery, he wouldn't be playing. Like, that, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's too talented and too young. Like, he wouldn't be playing. But the fact that he's still playing leads me to believe that they think they can rehab this through and he can keep playing. No,
they can't rehab it. They think he can play through it, and he believes that as well. Rehabbing it on the fly and playing through it are two different things. This is not fixing itself on the fly. This will have to get addressed at some point.
I mean, if I can parallel any comparison to 2003 when Clay Matthews dislocated his shoulder, and he played through it, and then you can add strength to it, rehab it. It doesn't actually heal, but you can get enough out of it and play through it. Like, it's not that mission critical to him. I don't know.
Okay,
He's
well,
a warrior.
I don't. He is a warrior. That much is clear, and we saw that last year. Thank you, Chad. That's I appreciate the call. This will get addressed with surgery. This is not going to fix itself. They believe, and Contreras believes, that I can play through this and still help the team win and then fully address it in the offseason. And I'm saying he can't. He's not. He's not even close to the same player. His bat speed's fallen off a table. His exit velocity's falling off a table, which is kind of one of the main things in his hitter profile he had going for him. He doesn't elevate the ball a ton. He just hits it hard as piss. Way too many ground balls. But if you're not going to hit it hard anymore, there's nothing left. You might as well just be another Joey Ortiz. So no, that's not, Chad, that's not how it's going to go. Like at some point he needs to get it addressed. Playing through it and rehabbing on the fly are two different things. Most injuries can't be rehabbed on the fly. Some injuries you can fix by taking a week off and letting swelling go down or something like that. This is a significant injury and it will need a significant fix. It's not going to happen in the middle of the season. But my point is, if this season is dead in the water and the Brewers make that decision at some time, maybe they trade away a guy like Freddie Peralta, or they trade away some of these great relievers. McGill and Mears, probably not someone like Uribe, but they have options, they have ammo there. Then shut him down, because you're just wasting him in probably the prime years of his career. We saw that last year too, after he hurt his finger. 608-321-1670. One more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Jordan and Madison.
What's going on, Jordan?
Hey, you stole my thunder last segment, or last sentence there. I was just calling to say I think the Brewers' magic number on the Freddie Peralta trade market is 10 games back in the division. I think if they fall 10 games back, I think Freddie's a goner. I think they look at $8 million as another soccer club in the UK right now.
Well, and the money aside, and Freddie's making money, I'm less concerned about the money. I probably just believe that they can get more for Freddie at the deadline than they can in the offseason. And typically I don't like selling guys off at the deadline, but look at what they got for Burns and for Williams. Like, can you get that plus a little bit if you deal Freddie at the deadline? Then I'd rather do that, because those last two deals, like trading them away with 1 year left, it just hasn't fetched a return relative to the value of the player. So Jordan, I think if they fall out of this, I'm perfectly okay with them trading Freddie away at the deadline.
Me too. And I think you hit the nail on the head is that I always thought the trade value for, like, Devin, for instance, would have been same at the middle of the season, end of the season, but I'm kind of leaning towards there's clubs that are going to overpay middle season versus the end of the year. So
I think so. And part of those last two deals is I just kind of hate what Matt Arnold targeted. Like, I don't know if their value is that diminished from the deadline to the offseason, or if Matt Arnold just targeted players that I just don't like. You know what I mean? Like, it may be a little bit of both, but if the Brewers are out of this thing, and there's a long way to go, there's a month or so before the deadline, I'm perfectly fine with them trading Freddie away, as much as it sucks, but he's not that much better than the other guys that they have. You know what I mean, Jordan? Like, he's been solid, but they have a rotation full of solid guys.
I agree completely. But
well, this has been a good call. I enjoy agreeing. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Have a good night. Appreciate you listening. Curt Hogg can speak to some of these details. I want to get the latest from the ballpark, the latest on Misiorowski, and the latest on the Brewers situation. I guess the Brewers have shown that you can have too much starting pitching. It's a rare thing, but I think they're proving it in front of our very eyes. So we'll talk with Curt Hogg of the Journal-Sentinel coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. Gonna get into the Packers closer to 5 o'clock. Mandatory minicamp wrapping up today. And I know not all of you are fascinated deeply with the ins and outs of the ongoing Aaron Civale sweepstakes trade request. Mike Clemens going to join us at 5:30. Joining us right now, he is live on location. Curt Hogg is here. Curt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Grant. Hopefully the music here is not too loud. Hopefully you can hear me good. It's time to pass. It's time to pass along some clubhouse vibes. That's
some
what we
clubhouse vibes. So you spoke with Civale, the gaggle of Brewers reporters, about an hour ago. What's the latest there? What were your takeaways?
It's great radio here. Not a whole lot that I don't think we could already surmise or figure out from the report that came out on The Athletic today from Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon. Essentially, Aaron Civale said this is not about leaving the organization. It's not about leaving the Brewers. But he did put in a trade request that he wants, because he wants to start. He wants to start whether it's here or somewhere else. He wants to start. That's how it's being framed. But essentially, it's a request to go somewhere else and start somewhere else, because while it's possible, very possible, that he could end up, something could happen here in the next couple of weeks, because who knows how long until you can work out a trade for a guy making $8 million in early June. That's not something that happens often. There does not seem a likely path right now for him to start for the Brewers. Now, obviously, things can change fast, and maybe this whole thing gets smoothed over, and Aaron Civale finishes the year as a happy member of the rotation. That is just currently not where we are.
Can you I know there's lots of things that you know that you can't always pass along. I guess my guess was that Matt Arnold had probably already been making calls about him over the last month or so because this was predictable. We could see this coming. So is that something that you know to be true, maybe?
I don't have any specifics on trade discussions necessarily.
Okay.
I do know that there is not a particularly formidable market at this particular point in time. And now maybe with the trade request being made public, maybe this achieves the intended goal of applying some pressure to the Brewers of sending him to another team. But frankly, I don't think unless he is, there's going to be some sort of attitude or availability change, which doesn't seem to be the case. Frankly, this doesn't have to change a whole lot for the Brewers. Aaron Civale can still be have some value as a long reliever, can bridge the middle innings to the late innings if your starter doesn't go very long. The Brewers are probably going to be best off ultimately if they can find a trade partner. But part of that is going to involve likely some other team needing to eat some of that salary. He's making $8 million this year. I believe he's the Brewers' highest paid pitcher, even more than Freddie Peralta and Nestor Cortez. So that's not the easiest salary to move when you're not going to want to eat any of it in return. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what the trade discussions are right now. It's going to have to be a team, obviously, that is in contention. The Washington Nationals aren't. There's someone that's not going to. The Baltimore Orioles aren't going to take on that salary and give you something back at this point. But we'll see how things progress here. I am under the impression he will be here for. It's not going to be an immediate trade.
Yeah, and he will be with the club. Curt Hogg, the Journal Sentinel, he's at the ballpark. In your illustrious career of covering baseball, or you can speak to maybe some of your counterparts, like Rosiak's been covering the game a long time, McCalvey. Have any of you guys ever seen a team with a surplus of starting pitching quite like this? Because the adage is you can never have enough, but I think the Brewers are proving that you can. You can have too much.
Well, no, I don't think so, which is funny because a month and a half ago, they didn't have any starting pitching.
Wow.
They all heard Elvin Rodriguez pitched. Do you remember that, Grant?
I was watching Ken Rosenthal's show today, and he's like, this is a team that started Elvin Rodriguez at their home opener.
At this fine ball yard right here. You can see that. You can see the mound right there.
Yep.
A fellow named Elvin Rodriguez started the home opener.
I watched it in person. It was not great.
And then Chad Patrick pitched the next day, and Chad Patrick's been awesome now. But at the time, it was Chad Patrick is in the opening day rotation. Elvin Rodriguez, it's very funny how this kind of all came about, and from afar you could see it coming a little bit with Logan Henderson's going to push his way up to the big leagues. Misiorowski's going to push his way up to the big leagues. Is Aaron Ashby going to start? Is DL Hall going to start? These sort of things. I wouldn't even say they have too much starting right now, because if you trade Civale, say in 10 minutes,
okay,
suddenly outside of Logan Henderson, you don't have tons of depth. You got some guys coming back still, but if Aaron Civale is just wants to be a team player about this and goes to the bullpen instead of requesting a trade, I think you have just slightly above average starting depth, but just really, really quality.
Sure. And those guys coming back, right? We don't know how Cortez is going to bounce back. That's taken longer than I think most Brewers fans thought originally. And that's kind of a theme. Somebody gets hurt and Murphy says, it's no big deal. And then it's the 60-day. And with Woodruff coming back from that injury, no one ever knows. And who knows what Tobias. So there's a lot of question marks. Tobias
Myers is not big league ready right now. That's point blank.
And that's been made clear vocally by those who speak for the team when he's been up here. There's been some displeasure there, and there, some points were made. Can you, in the most concise or the best way that you can, kind of try to describe how the Brewers are operating right now? Because I think there are some win now moves. There are some future-based moves. Can you, if you were asked by a counterpart who covers another team, what are the Brewers attempting to do? Big picture. What's their strategy? How would you sum that up?
I don't think the Brewers' strategy has changed relative to kind of what it was coming into the year, which is what it was going into the last year and the year before that, right? Which is you have these apples. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do bites of the apple. It is put yourself in contention enough times, give yourself enough of a window, enough of a chance every single year while being built around pitching and defense, which are clearly the things that they are good at identifying and acquiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And leave yourself room to be better some of those years. And I think you understand that some of those years, maybe you're going to hit the bottom end and win 82, 83 games, which I don't think anyone would be surprised if this ends up being an 82 win team because of the offense. Now, I do think the Brewers are also, at this point in time in 2025, understanding with what the team they have out there right now is and what their playoff odds are. They're not fantastic, not terrible, they're not fantastic. That with what you have coming up, and you look at the rotation for next year and what's also like some of the position player side that's coming in the years after that, it's prudent maybe to understand that your best shots might not necessarily be this year. I don't know if that means they're going to sell, but we haven't seen them push the chips in hard in years where we know they're good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not necessarily what I'm expecting this year. I think there's next year seems like it should be a pretty good year for these guys if they can figure out a few spots on offense. And William Contreras' finger isn't broken.
Well, so that's another thing. Like, I just, if at any point this year they're going to decide this is not our year, I would like to see them shut him down, let him get healthy. We don't need to discuss that today. I want to ask you about Miz lastly, but one thing first. If they decide to sell some pieces at some point, and I know we're fast forwarding about a month, do you think there's a lesson learned between Corbin Burnes and Devin Williams that if you're going to trade a guy anyway, it might be, see, I like your facial expression. This is an interesting thought exercise. Is it better to do it at the deadline the year before the final offseason?
Boy, that's tough. That is, I generally think you are going to get more for a player at the deadline than you will in the offseason.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a lesson learned from Devin exactly, because you weren't going to trade him, A, coming right back off that injury. He had thrown like 2 games. And B, you weren't going to trade him on the heels of the Hader trade. And same thing goes for Corbin. Like, that team in 23 was his last year with Corbin. That team was good. Corbin was good. And that, like, also the Hader trade's always on everyone's mind. They weren't going to do that again. I think that's actually really relevant for Freddie Peralta with this season. And again, I don't think they're in a position to move Freddie at the deadline. But I do agree with your general sentiment that, right, the deadline creates pressure, and pressure makes, you see another team make this move, you can maximize more. Plus, you get the extra half season in the playoff run with Freddie. That extra half year is very, very valuable. Because, yeah, as we've seen, there's still a lot of question marks about these returns on the other 2 trades.
And I don't know that those returns are necessarily because it was in the offseason or if it was just the players they targeted and they haven't really been as robust as they think,
especially with Corbin, I do think the market was not as robust, to use your word, as they expected. I don't think it quite played out with like teams lining up as the Brewers would have obviously liked. And at the deadline, it's every year it's a seller's market with the way that the playoff structure is now. We're like on 4 years of the double wild card?
True. Yeah.
Or triple wild card. And every year it's like, oh, seller's market this year. Yeah, of course it is. Because there's only like 8 teams that are willing to go to their owner and be like, yeah, sorry, man, we suck. We're going to have to trade it off.
103 miles an hour, 6'7". Get us ready. Paint a picture for what we're going to see with Misiorowski.
But enough about me.
Sure.
No, I'm just kidding, Grant.
I just realized what you were doing. Screw you. Get us ready for Miz.
I'm only 6'6" in your programs.
Yeah, that's true.
6'5" IRL. Miz, it's going to be fun. It's going to go one of 2 ways, and that's also kind of a fun thing. Especially,
it's going to go one of 2 ways.
Like it's gonna be spray, or it's gonna be in the zone and no one's gonna touch it. Get used to that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
He's ironed out some of his command over the last month or 2. That's been probably part of the reason that he's up now, right?
He sure has. Well, part of the reason he's up now, Grant, probably involves a numero dos of the super variety. I'm not saying that's for sure. I'm just saying
Well, it would be
timing
smart. I wasn't even going to go there because we have enough to talk about the command, but we could probably assume that too.
Well, he is up at this point in the year. It's still relatively early. I would have thought for him to be up.
Same
after spring training, and that is because of the command URS. It's also right. It's also because of the changeup. The changeup's been really good, and it's like his stuff has been big league ready for a while now. We all know that.
All right. Well, we look forward to watching. If he looks like a mess tonight, that's going to create some awkward dynamics, considering they bumped a guy out of the rotation and they've since requested a trade. But we won't go there. We'll wait to see what happens first.
No, we will not interview Aaron Civale after the game if this goes bad. No, Grant. Why would you suggest that? Stop meddling.
Go where the story is, Curt. That's journalism 101. I don't know. I didn't go to journalism school, but I would imagine that's part of it. Thank you for your time. We look forward to your coverage, your reporting at the Yard tonight. Thank you, Curt.
Thanks, Grant.
Curt. What is it with people? Jesse does the same thing. Thanks, Grant. Yeah, of course. Curt Hogg on Twitter at Curt Hogg, CYRTHOOGG. It's with a Y. You'll find it. It's not that hard. It's the internet. It'll pop up. But his reporting at the Journal Sentinel is excellent, as is his podcasting work, the Microbrew podcast with J.R. Radcliffe. Todd Rosiak known to make an appearance on there as well. So Misiorowski tonight. I don't just want to focus on the Civale thing because the Brewers are debuting a player that we've all looked forward to now for a long time. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour number one. I promised yesterday to have a little fun with what's going on with our rivals across the border. The Minnesota Vikings. Colin Cowherd has found a new mark, and it's very entertaining. We'll have a little fun with that. And then at 5 o'clock, we'll get into the Packers. Mike Clemens will join us at 5:30. A loaded Wisco sports show. Still plenty to discuss and plenty to cover, so don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your two wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
He has a big arm. He's mobile. He can process. He's shown everything in Michigan.
He go read the scout. He doesn't have a big arm. He does not have a big arm.
A good enough arm. A good enough NFL arm.
He has, his arm is considered modest. It is a middle of the pack arm, middle of the pack escapability.
It's a little bit from Colin Cowherd and Jason McIntyre on the Herd. I don't know if that was late last week or early this week, but I have noticed across the Mississippi, or if you head north, the mighty St. Croix, the Minnesota Viking fans have been mixing it up a little bit with Cowherd, some of his commentary. It's very interesting, and I hinted at it last night. I said, we'll get to this tomorrow, so I want to make good on that promise. We'll get into the Packers in the second hour of the show. Mike Clemens at 5:35. Thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. I'll be honest with you. I am fascinated by this Aaron Civale trade request. I think it is compelling theater and great red meat for sports talk radio. I don't know that it means a hill of beans for wins and losses for the Brewers in the long term, because you could stick another pitcher in there and it doesn't really change much, and they're not going to get anything of consequence if they're able to trade him, which I'm skeptical of at this hour, on this day at least. But it's great for talk radio. Packers mandatory minicamp this week. Not a lot of red meat. Like, Bo Melton playing corner. And I saw Andy Herman tweeting today, like, he actually looked pretty good. Okay, well, but what do you want me to do with that? You know what I mean? Like, Mike Clemens will paint a great picture for us at 5:35. He was at all the media avails, and he's been watching practice, so he'll help us out. Mike is always compelling. But I'm content to talk about Civale and this trade request. Bill Simmons would find a way to call this a sweepstakes if he operated in the realm of talking about bottom of the rotation Milwaukee Brewers starters. But Cowherd, I think he's found a soft spot here with Vikings fans. He's found a good itch, and he's going to continue to scratch it. Skeptical of J.J. McCarthy. Not sure about J.J. McCarthy. If the Vikings really were so sure about J.J. McCarthy, why are they sniffing around other quarterbacks? Why did they work so hard to try to keep Sam Darnold? Why did they want to keep not Aaron Jones, but Daniel Jones? Why were they seemingly interested in Aaron Rodgers? All of that is kind of media. Although it makes sense they wanted to keep Darnold to keep Daniel Jones because they have a really good roster, and I'm sure they want the insurance. That doesn't necessarily mean they don't still love J.J. McCarthy. Here's a little bit more from Cowherd.
There's so much mystery here. Why does Minnesota keep flirting with other quarterbacks? And there's too many conflicting reports on J.J. McCarthy. So I just find the whole thing, there's a lot of stuff I just don't know. I feel sometimes I'm getting a little bit of a spin job here. You know, there's one or two things I never buy. I never buy this when you say this about a quarterback. That guy is a winner. Everybody under Jim Harbaugh and Steve Spurrier and Nick Saban's a winner. I don't want to hear that. If you go back and look, his arm is modest. His escapability is modest. His release wasn't super quick. There is no great trait.
So I've seen a lot of Vikings fans. Our friend of network, Thor Nystrom, who joined Bill a couple weeks ago, and I think he does some stuff with Score North. I don't think he's with K-Fan. I think he does stuff with Mackey and Judd on Thursdays. I believe they're called Thorsdays, which is very clever. And he's been kind of leading the charge as the J.J. McCarthy guy. I'm telling you, Vikings fans, this is something you have to deal with. I know that very few fan bases across the National Football League are familiar with the concept and the process and the consequences of drafting and sitting a quarterback. A lot of fan bases don't know how to deal with that. I mean, who drafts a quarterback and sits them for 1 year or more than 1 year? Well, the Packers do. So Vikings fans, let me learn you a thing or two here. You just got to eat this. You just got to take it. You just have to take. He hasn't played in the NFL yet. He sat as a rookie. He didn't have traits at Michigan. He was a winner, but he didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot. Like, this is what comes with the territory. I think drafting quarterbacks and being patient with them is smart. It also opens the door for media talking heads like Cowherd, who I think is very good, to, pick at you a little bit. Well, if Jordan Love was so great, Patrick Mahomes Practice rookie year behind Alex Smith. They knew. You could see it. I saw a dozen practice throws. Knew he was the guy. Jordan Love? I haven't seen anything. What's going on there? Don't you think if Jordan Love really was the next great quarterback for the Packers, we would have heard something? Anything? There's nothing. There was nothing. I'm kind of mocking Cowherd. This is what I would say. And these are kind of the things that Cowherd said. Because if a quarterback is going to sit on the bench and we don't see them, we don't hear from them, especially if they played at Utah State, who nobody watches, or if they played at Michigan that never threw the ball, well, there's going to be natural skepticism there. I find this whole situation very entertaining, and it's funny that it happens to Vikings fans. This is the type of thing that normally only happens to Packers fans about once every 15 years, because that's about how often that Packers fans need a quarterback. Doesn't happen very often. I'm not sure if J.J. McCarthy's going to be any good. I'll tell you what, if he sucks, it's going to be very funny. And that's not coming from a personal place against Vikings fans or against J.J. McCarthy. Screw your team. I don't like them. They're rivals. And you don't like my team. So why do we have to... Why do fan bases always do this? Marquette, Wisconsin is the best example of this dynamic, where both fans just refuse to admit that it's a rivalry. I never think about you. Yeah, you do. I think about you all the time. Screw Marquette. I want nothing but the worst for that basketball program. They're an in-state rival. Why do we... I don't think about you at all. That is horse manure, my friend. At least I'll be the mature one and admit it. I feel the same way about the Vikings. I don't want them to succeed. I hope J.J. McCarthy blows. I don't think he will. I think he'll be fine with that roster and that coach. I think he'll be, at worst, fine. But it is funny that, Cowherd's giving it to you. This is something that Packers fans, we've endured because we sit and rest our quarterbacks. Comes with the territory.
Everybody under Jim Harbaugh and Steve Spurrier and Nick Saban's a winner. I don't want to hear that. If you go back and look, his arm is modest. His escapability is modest. His release wasn't super quick. There is no great trait.
They do speak of his aura in Minnesota. They do really love talking about his aura. And I guess aura is, what's the word I'm looking for? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What's that word? It's personal, or it's relative, or subjective. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Oh, it was going to bother me if I didn't come up with it. Subjective. Aura is subjective. He looks like a rich kid from Edina, so he'll probably fit in well up there. And I think at worst, he'll be fine with that roster and that coaching staff. Who knows? But Vikings fans, this summer from Cowherd, you just got to take it. It's the way of the road. Take it from a Packers fan. We endure it. The payoff's normally there. At least it is for us. Things work out for us. Hour number 2, we'll talk Packers, and we'll connect with Mike Clemens next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Aaron Civale has requested a trade from the Brewers. That's according to The Athletic. Comes after Civale was moved out of the rotation and into the bullpen to make room for the call-up of Jacob Misiorowski. Manager Pat Murphy said yesterday that Civale did not take the news well. Civale was acquired via trade last July from Tampa Bay. Missed more than a month earlier this year with an injury. He's 1-2 with a 4.91 ERA. Gave up 2 runs over 4 2/3 innings in his last outing. As for the club, they have lost 2 straight series, were held to 2 runs or fewer in 4 of the 6 games, including a pair of shutouts. Murphy said that they aren't getting the contributions necessary right now.
Yeah, I think we're guys that, Terang and Frelick are on-base guys. Durbin and Ortiz have to be guys that collectively help us move runners or get themselves on base too. And Churio, Contreras, Yelich, and Hoskins have got a bang, and that didn't all happen.
Milwaukee will open a series tonight against St. Louis. Cardinals a half game in front of the Brewers in the NL Central and 5 games back of first place Chicago. First pitch tonight is at 6:40.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers were on the field this morning for the final time this offseason as they close out their 3-day minicamp. Usually, the final day is a team-building exercise away from the practice field, but Coach Matt LaFleur decided to practice instead after cutting the offseason program short by a week. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
So the Brewers, of all teams, seem to have something of a starting pitching surplus. And today, their top prospect, Jacob Misiorowski, is coming up to make his major league debut tonight at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. And because the Brewers want to add Misiorowski to their rotation, they are moving Aaron Civale to the bullpen. They gave him that news yesterday, and at that time, Aaron Civale was not happy, as his manager Pat Murphy said, and his agent Jack Toffey requested a trade through Brewers general manager Matt Arnold. I have a story up with Will Salmon about this particular situation right now, and you can understand Civale in his free agent year not wanting to go to the bullpen, where he has never pitched except one time in relief last year during the wildcard series against the Mets. That's his only career relief appearance, 122 career regular season starts. And at the same time, the Brewers, though, they have this abundance of starters and starting options. Nowhere among those names do you see Aaron Civale because he has been sent to the bullpen. But in Civale's case, it doesn't seem like he has a clear path necessarily back to the rotation.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
More from Ken Rosenthal. I have some sound from Tom Verducci and some folks on MLB Central from earlier today, too. Maybe we'll play that. More than content to talk Packers with you in hour number 2. Mike Clemens is here at 5:30, so that's just baked in. It's not that I'm not interested in mandatory minicamp. It was just a pretty boring week. And Rick and Spencer text in. He says, minicamp being boring is probably a good thing. Also, J.J. McCarthy could cost the Vikings GM his job. I don't know. They seem to really like Kwesi. He's done a lot of things really well. Some of his draft picks have not been excellent. I'm not totally sure about his draft process. But identifying value around the league on the open market or on the trade market, he has been excellent at, which is not a surprise given his background. If J.J. McCarthy isn't any good, I don't think that's going to cost him his job. That would just be my take. But it certainly wouldn't help, right? You miss on a quarterback, especially one that they traded up for, right? Yeah, traded up for him, which is a big deal because the Packers traded up for Jordan Love, and that's all I heard about. It's like I thought the drafting the quarterback part would be the part that people focused on more, but it was like, and they traded up for him. It's like, whatever. They identified a quarterback and they went for him. I don't really care that much if they traded up for him. Now, you go from pick 32 to pick 2, sure. If you jump up 5 or 6 spots to ensure you get the guy, I don't know. I'm not going to hold that against you. If you have takes on mandatory minicamp, the Packers this week, more than happy to take your phone calls. Or any thoughts on the Aaron Civale sweepstakes, which is now accepting bids. Please, someone call and offer. We'll take it. The first phone call through the door, you get it. Like Moneyball. First one to call me back takes him. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
First one to call you back. Moneyball. I'm in.
Yes. I think they probably have been trying to trade him. Curt could neither confirm nor deny, but that is just my intuition.
Hey, Grant, totally unrelated question, of course. You're going to a bachelor party. Do you refer to the person that you're celebrating as the bachelor or the groom?
It's never something that I've thought of. I feel like bachelor because it's a bachelor party.
I think they're a bachelor until the day of the wedding, and then they transition into a groom. That's my take.
I like that. Are you going to a bachelor party this weekend?
Well, yeah, this is double. I've been talking about this across the network, but, back-to-back bachelor parties. This weekend, I happen to be in charge of food, so I'm elbows deep in marinating some pork chops for tomorrow night. We got night 1 pork chop with grilled pineapple, and we're going to make some barbecue sandwiches out of that. Oh. Night 2, we've got ribeyes for everybody, and then I got a big old tomahawk ribeye for the bachelor because ultimately it's his day. So
good for you. Are you traveling anywhere, or is it just near home?
We're going, we're going to the Dells. So I saw Showboat. Shout out Showboat posting their live music. I'm out here in Minneapolis. We're going to be leaving probably in about 30 minutes. And I just hit them up. I said, what time does the band play till? They're posting their live music. I said, hell yeah. Now I got a reason to go. I was thinking about waiting until tomorrow morning, but we'll get the drive in tonight. Might as well get
I'm a big fan of that. I'm actually going up north to visit my folks for the weekend. I'm taking tomorrow off. Apologies to everybody. We're going to drive in the morning. Sometimes it's nice to get the drive done the night before, but if you're not getting there for a particular reason, it's also nice to get that vacation night at home in your bed, too. I'm sure this is intimately interesting to everyone listening.
Well, look, it's either this or Brewers might trade a mid-pitcher.
It's not they might trade. Back about John, he's demanding a trade. It was reported by Ken Rosenthal today.
That's crazy. Like, who does this guy think he is? You know what I mean? Like, he's replaceable. And if they can get a bat, right?
That's
if they
why
can
no
get
one
somebody
wants
to
him.
Get the offense. Like, all right.
I would love a
So
bat.
We'll see what that market looks like.
Please.
Hey, I want to transition here, and this is my attempt. I'm dipping the toe in the water of NBA takes, Rant, but this is a half-baked take. I know I come in hot with a lot of takes that are fully baked, and I'll stick to them for years sometimes. But this is a half-baked one. So we watched last night the finals. I know it's a Wisco Sports Show. Halliburton, obviously, from Oshkosh, so we're coming at it from that angle, so everybody relax a little bit. But, Grant, I think in the NBA, you often hear about Batman and Robin discourse.
Yes.
And I think there's a guy in that show, and this is for the nerds listening. If you watch Batman and Robin, the guy who comes in the clutch that sometimes disappears for multiple episodes or half a movie at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when they need somebody to pull the team together and pull all the strings, it's Alfred in the background, right?
Like
and so
that.
my take today is I think Tyrese Halliburton is the Alfred of the NBA. And I was talking to my Pacers friend who lives in Denver. Don't ask me. I don't know.
What a
Everybody's
fraud.
trying to move to the desert. Don't ask me. That's a whole other thing. But lives out in Denver. We're talking hoops today. And he goes, you know what nobody's talking about? Everybody wants to whine and bitch and moan about these foul merchants. Whether it's the guy out in Philly, Jokic was doing it for a while. Obviously, Brunson the entire last series.
Mm-hmm.
Halliburton, through 3 games, Grant, has not taken a single free throw.
Yeah.
This is a superstar playing the point guard position, making everybody around him better. I know as Bucks fans, we have a little animosity here because of how it all went down. But, man, I'm starting to become a Halliburton fan. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the way he plays the game of basketball does not hunt fouls, makes every single person on his team better.
It's true.
And at this point, you can't say anything but he's clutch. So I think it's been a really fun series, kind of a shocker for, obviously all of the Rockheads over at the 4-letter networks. But it's been a fun series. So curious on your NBA thought real quick.
Well, sure. Bachelor Party talk straight into NBA. That's probably what everybody wants. I appreciate it. I do have an NBA take. Feel how you want about Halliburton. The biggest complaint that I see about him that folks have is that he's corny. That's subjective, to use that word again. If you want to think he's corny or weird, okay, fine. I'm annoyed with him, but I think it's because he's knocked my team out of the playoffs twice. So at least I have a good reason. I don't like him because he knocked my team out. That's not necessarily because he's corny. It's just because he's knocked my team out. That's how sports work. My NBA take, I didn't even know if I was going to get to this tonight, is a take that I have been bringing up. It's a drum that I've been beating for the last month. Why do people underreact to games? Everyone is so afraid to overreact to a game. You know, if there's an upset in game 1 or a lopsided victory in game 1, nobody wants to react. No one wants to give that game its worth. No one wants to assign value to game 1 or to game 2. The Pacers won game 1, and then everyone's takeaway was, okay, Thunder in 5. And then the Thunder won game 2 in very Thunder fashion. They ran away with it, which is how they've had to win most of their games. And people are like, all right, yep, Thunder in 5 indeed. And then the Pacers won last night. And I see people like Bobby Marks. And I was texting about this with Justin Garcia, our friend from the Bucks Radio Network last night. Bobby Marks tweets last night, well, and now we got a series. We had a series after game 1. And it's so annoying. This happened in Celtics-Knicks too. It's like we would see this crazy game where a team that folks didn't expect to win pulls it out. And they do so in a way that's, how did they pull? What? This player made this play, and did you see the steal? And wow, what a clutch moment. And then after the game, everyone wants immediately to kind of like set that to the side. The games are being played on our televisions. We're watching with our eyes, and we're processing with our brains. Why does it not land for anyone? Why do I have to see tweets and comments after last night's game? It's like, well, don't look now. We have a series. We had a series night 1 when the home team won the opener. I don't understand it. I also have been skeptical on the Thunder. I remain skeptical on the Thunder. I think the Thunder are a fascinating experiment. I think the Thunder are the best possible version of the Coach Bud Bucks in 2018. The best possible version of the regular season juggernaut. And we've seen this team in many forms, right? We've seen this team in Coach Bud Bucks. I think the Utah Jazz with Quinn Snyder were a good example of this. Just regular season dominance throughout. 1 seed, best point differential, best net rating, best all of it. But then that team gets to the playoffs and they go up against a team with a little more star power, a little bit more experience, and you see that the regular season juggernaut team doesn't always come out on top no matter how great the point differential or the net rating or anything like that is, right? This Thunder team, I think, is the best ever version of that regular season juggernaut that we've seen. Now, the advantage for these regular season juggernauts now is that the second apron has made it more difficult to classically construct a team like the Warriors or the Cavs or the Heat, or going back even further, the Spurs, right? Where it's like they might not win the most games in the regular season, but the star power and the experience and all of the hired guns. Well, it's really hard to build a team like that now. So I think the Thunder are a fascinating experiment, that they're the best season, the best regular season juggernaut we've ever seen, competing for a finals in an era where it's been harder to build a team the other way. So I want to see if they can do it. And through 3 games, I'm not convinced. Because I tell you what, when things slowed down last night and in game 1, give Shea the ball and hope he makes a shot. It's very Giannis in 2018, 2019, where it's like, oh, it's tight. I guess Giannis, just put your head down and see if you can do something. And that's what the Thunder have been in crunch time. And Chet couldn't get a bucket last night when they needed one. Shea couldn't get a bucket. Like, the players that you crown in the regular season can come crashing back down to earth very fast. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. Now, I think Shea is, I mean, he had, 37, 38 in game 1, so I have a really hard time faulting him for game 1. But the regular season juggernaut typically does not win the finals. And this Thunder team, I think, is just about the best version of a regular season juggernaut, and they're playing in an era when it's been harder now with the second apron and this current CBA to build a team the other way. So this is a fascinating experiment. That's my NBA take. Did you enjoy it? Text coming in, 608-321-1670 on the Brewers. Coyote Mike says, the Brewers need hitting help. In the last several weeks, if they had any inkling that Miz was ready to come up soon, then why did they not put Civale and another pitcher and a prospect together in a trade and get some hitting help now, rather than wait until the deadline or until Civale asks for a trade? I think the Brewers may have some internal issues that are affecting their play on the field. They're wasting wins and time. I think they probably tried to trade Civale. And if you take Civale's agent at his word in the writing of Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal today, who they connected with Jack Toffee, and Jack Toffee gave the quote in the story, quote, I've heard from other teams through their channels of communication that they, the Brewers, have a plethora of starting pitching and they're looking to trade partners they're looking for trade partners, maybe not just on Aaron, but maybe another pitcher. Coyote Mike, I think Matt Arnold's been calling around on Civale and probably on other names, and they're not finding anything. Right? And as they get closer to the deadline, maybe that gets easier, but let's be real. Like, Civale is not the sexiest possible option. If you're a team who's lost starting pitchers, the Diamondbacks would be one. I'm sure there are others. I don't watch every team every night. I'm sorry. But if you're a team that has expectations to compete, a bullpen that you think is legit, an offense that you think is good enough, and you don't have the starting pitching depth, or maybe one of your stud horses got hurt, oh my God, run to the phone. We got to acquire Aaron Civale. Like, that's not moving the needle. Be a nice depth ad, but no one's looking for depth ads in early June or mid-June. You know what I mean? Thank you, Coyote Mike. This text, JJ in Madison, says 2 thoughts. Thought number 1, do you think they are balancing now and later to remain somewhat relevant as they hope to catch fire and still have a future? Yes, because that's the bites at the apple thing. So that is what they're doing. That's summer entertainment and a potential bite of the apple. You follow up. Yes, correct. Point number 2, is Misiorowski up for fan interest? No, I do not. Doug in Luxembourg brought this up on Bill's show earlier today. I think this has very little and probably nothing to do with fan interest and selling tickets and t-shirts and all that stuff. It was ready for him to come up. I just think the Brewers situation is a little clunky and a little messy. So the landing spot for Misiorowski has not been maybe as seamless and as easy as they would have thought a month or 2 ago. They could have waited longer. I'm glad that Curt said that in last hour. Like, he's actually up earlier than I thought he would be. I thought if he wasn't up here already, then it would be a little bit longer. If he wasn't up at the end of the year last year, why rush? I'm actually surprised that he's up here this early. Ray tweets in, at Wisco Grant, I pulled a group of 25 friends last night. No, I don't have 25 close friends, just people I know, and only one of the 25 have watched any of the NBA Finals games. We're all between the ages of 28 and 36. I don't know of a less interesting finals in my lifetime. Look, if your consumption of NBA basketball is limited to podcasts and sports talk radio and TV, this isn't a super interesting finals. If you love basketball and you like watching interesting players and fun play styles, then this finals is great. I don't know that many people are really that interested in pace of play style, strategy, matchups, X's and O's. I don't think that many people are really interested in that thing. It's the other thing. What's going to happen that's going to feed the machine of Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins and JJ Redick? Because tomorrow, the day after, is more what I'm interested in. And from that perspective, this finals is not very interesting. I don't hear a lot of people talking about what a ring would mean for one team or the other, what a ring would mean for Shea versus Halliburton. Like, I don't know that there are crazy stakes. I mean, Stephen A. Smith this morning was like calling out Tyrese Halliburton and telling him to just play bad. Like, it's very bizarre. This is not a finals that's going to feed the machine. So if your interest in basketball is only there, minus your team, to listen to podcasts and to watch the debate shows the next day, then no, this is not a particularly compelling finals. That's fine. The basketball is great, but if that's not what you're into, and that's fine, then no, this is not the finals for you. And I just don't know how many people 7 times at this point in the postseason are going to sit down and commit 2.5 hours a night to a game. And I think that's true of any teams that are playing if it's not your team. Let's take a break, get to some of your calls at 608-321-1670 on this, and we can get into the Packers next as well.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The new opportunity, I think it's one of those like fresh starts, and the Packers just welcome me with open arms and giving me the opportunity to go out there and showcase my skills, and it's good enough for me, and I just gotta go out there and take advantage of it.
So wide receiver Mecole Hardman just joined the Packers a couple weeks ago, months ago. When was that, I suppose? Free agency? Whenever that would have been. I lose track of time. Talking about why he selected the Packers, what he's looking forward to with the Packers after being with the Chiefs and the Jets, some other teams the last few years. It's the Wisco Sports Show. Mike Clemens going to join us in about 10 or 12 minutes here. So any thoughts you have on the Brewers or the Packers, or shoot, on the NBA Finals, I suppose I wasn't planning to bring that up today, but Vagabond John went there. It's all on the table. 608-321-1670. Would love to have your commentary on the Talk and Text line. And by the way, just fair warning, not going to be on tomorrow. I will be going home to visit my family. Notice how when I say family, I mean family. I didn't say folks. Actually, let me take that back. This weekend, I'm going to be spending time with my inner circle. So think about what that means. I just have some things going on in my inner circle that I need to address this weekend. I'm going home to visit my parents. That's what that means. So I will be off tomorrow. I actually haven't heard from Zach today. I asked if he could possibly do the show. I don't know if he has anything going on. He's been covering the Packers. Otherwise, I have prepared a selection of highlights from the show over the last couple of weeks. I know how much you guys love that. So if you have anything to say before the weekend, it's got to be tonight. I have not seen many compelling, juicy sports talk radio storylines from mandatory minicamp this week, which, as Rick and Spencer pointed out on the text line, is probably a good thing. Like, look at what's going on with the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson is not there because he has issues with his contract. Shamar Stewart, the player they drafted to supposedly help cope with the loss here or later of Trey Hendrickson, is also not there. He's left over issues with his contract, his rookie contract, which is fairly boilerplate. I'm sure there are some details that need to be hashed out, but I mean, come on. Like, if you can't figure out a rookie contract, what are we doing? And the Trey Hendrickson situation makes me laugh because Trey Hendrickson in the offseason was like, I'm not playing on this deal. I'm not happy with my deal. The Bengals asked me to go out and prove it. I did. I led the league in sacks. I would like a new deal. I'm not going to play on this deal. And the Bengals said, okay, it's a good point. So if we just don't do anything, like, oh, you're going to, okay, you're committed to that? All right, shoot. All right, we need another plan. We tried ignoring it. That didn't help. That didn't fix the situation. Turns out ignoring his request and not doing anything, that wasn't a solution. Crap. Okay, I guess we'll try plan B, which is, I guess, do nothing for a while longer. So, like, it's not like the Packers have a new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. That's juicy. It's not that they have a player that, we haven't seen yet, like JJ McCarthy. It's not like there's contract disputes. So there's Elton Jenkins, but he's there. And I think that gets done. I think that's something that makes sense for both teams. The Packers aren't going to have to pay through the nose to make Elton Jenkins happy. They're just going to have to give him a couple more years of security, a little bit higher contract figure, but the money's all going to hit on the front end. So that'll come off their books in rather short order. It's not like they're pushing guaranteed money years and years down the line or pushing money that's going to hurt their salary cap years and years down the line. So that's not really a huge deal. Marshawn Lloyd was healthy, and he spoke to reporters today. I think that's item number one, or maybe not item number one, but that's an item that I want to discuss with Mike, because when we last talked on Monday, I said, Mike, what's the one thing you're looking forward to this week? What's the one thing that you're curious about? And he said, Marshawn Lloyd. I want to see what he looks like. I want to see him out there. They also, I saw earlier today, had Bo Melton in the pony package, which I believe is the 2 running back situation, which we all thought would work really well with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones back in the day. It did not. So they were trying Bo Melton out there too. So I guess that's something we could also do. Let's just do a half hour on Bo Melton with Mike Clemens when he joins us. We'll just do a half hour on Bo Melton. It'll be great, playing all of the different positions. I did see, and I can't remember who it was from today. I think I probably bookmarked it. So let me scroll for a sec. I actually saw a lot of complimentary things about Bo Melton's cornerback skills. Like, he looks natural. Like, he has the physical tools. The technique is another thing. That takes a long time to get down, but the physical tools seem like they're there. So it was more coverage of Bo Melton today, not just at corner, but a little bit at running back in that pony package alongside Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd as well. I saw that Jaden Reed joined the rehab group today. He was dealing with something or other. We'll get the latest on that from Mike coming up. But that's about it. Jacob Monk taking some reps at center. Anthony Belton taking some second-team reps at left tackle yesterday. Jordan Morgan playing more right guard, a little bit more tackle. It's really, really standard mandatory minicamp stuff, which I suppose is a good thing. We're not talking about a massive necessary contract extension for Jordan Love. I think at some point they'll do Zach Tom this summer. And I think at some point they'll take care of Elton Jenkins. But I think both team and player looked at each other and said, okay, does this have to get done this week? Because if you just come and be a part of the team this week and just hang out and it's not an issue, well, then we can circle back after when we're not dealing with the football stuff. So I think the timetable of that makes sense, assuming they're going to do it at some point, and I assume they will. That's about it. Nothing crazy dramatic from camp, which again is probably a good thing. We'll talk more about this and everything else related to the Packers as mandatory minicamp is coming to a close with Mike Clemens. He'll join us next, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. And if you have anything that you want Mike's take on, or if there's anything that you want me to ask about, text it in or comment it on the live stream, and I'll try to work it into our conversation. But otherwise, we'll get the latest. We'll get the full summary of everything that went down up in Green Bay this week at mandatory minicamp with Mike Clemens. He joins us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage. Friday night, it's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the Wisco Sports Show. Trending towards 6 o'clock in the end of the show. I will be off tomorrow. As I joked in the last segment, I have some things going on in my inner circle. I'm going to visit my parents for a long weekend. So we're getting everything out of our system today, including a wrap-up of mandatory minicamp with Mike Clemens, who joins us courtesy of the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, or less than a mile from Lambeau Field on Military Avenue. So if you want to book, maybe for the fall, if you already got football in the mind, that would be smart, or a trip there for the summer because Green Bay is beautiful and you can see the sights and take the stadium tour and do all the things. So give them a call, 920-494-3441, or go online, baymotelgreenbay.com. Mike Clemens joins us from the Bay Motel. So, Mike, a pretty straightforward training camp, not a lot of drama, or I guess not training camp, mini camp, not a lot of drama, nothing crazy with contracts or anything like that. Pretty straightforward, it seemed from a distance.
Well, I mean, after the Jair situation.
That's true, I suppose. Yeah,
and
that's a big
Elton
one.
Jenkins is down there watching. But, I mean, I've just got done here in the room here, my little office, if you will, seeing all the nonsense going on with the Cincinnati Bengals, you know, and Shamar Stewart's not, you know, walking out of camp, their first round draft pick, you know, and Trey Hendrickson, they haven't paid him. And just, you know, how come they had ownership that the daughter's now taken over for Mike Brown, that, you know, just, you know, it's like they've gone back 40 years and, you know, these rookie contracts, they're open and shut now.
They should be. Yeah, maybe a tweak here and there, but it's the Bengals, so you look at it sideways. And I think it is funny, Mike, and I mentioned this in the last segment, like, they have issues with Trey Hendrickson, who you assumed was the player that the Bengals drafted Shamar Stewart to replace, and they got issues with both of them.
No, this mini camp has had a lot of a different feel for me than in previous years or previous head coaches with mini camp, and that's because I guess it's because I've seen this group now, the majority of this roster, together for 2 or 3 years, and you know and even though it's just it's a warm up, you're installing a game plan or a playbook with players. You're working on technique. You're kind of just working out. You know, you're trying to get into football shape, or remind these guys where they need to be in the next 6 weeks when they come back here on July 23rd. It's funny. Goody kind of wandered over, and usually they don't. They're very formal. He kind of came over and said, are you guys here watching this fake football? He's like teasing. Like, why are you guys here?
Really? Like, what are you guys so interested in here? It's just
what
guys
exactly
in t-shirts.
Are you looking for here? And even LaFleur said that, but Goody said it in a joking way. LaFleur is just much more like, he said, I'm not going to give you evaluations. It's jog through with guys in helmets and shorts. And Matt keeps reminding you of the limitations he has as a head coach of what they can do, and they don't want to be fined and that kind of thing. So, and he's not going to really get into, are some of the rookies learning their assignments quickly, or can you tell that some of them are kind of slow, and, the challenges you're going to have when you put on pads and try and get them to understand the playbook and where they're going to be. And no, he doesn't want to get into that. But today, what he has made clear is that he decided he had to put off his off-season program, his phase 1, 2, and 3 of OTAs, and then the mini camp in terms of, installing, showing you how we want you to practice when we come back for training camp in the season, the different drills we do, what your day, your work day is like from weightlifting at 6:30 in the morning until we let you out of here at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. The stuff I expect you to work on at night is, they lost a couple weeks because of the draft. So they did, a week or two just virtually in Zoom calls, which, as we know, that Jair Alexander was a part of. But that's why today, often these mini camps, and even go back to like Mike Sherman, it's like, yeah, it's 3 day, but then a lot of the rookies or first-year guys here, maybe free agents, they don't realize it. Hey, coach is probably going to take us out for paintball, or going out. And no, they had a full practice again today because he needs those reps, and he wants to get that stuff on film. And his position coaches want to get it on film to review that, to clean up technique, lineups, assignments, and everything. Now there's all kinds of changes going on. It's like last couple of days, the second-year man, Jordan Morgan, your first-round pick from last year, he's been lining up a lot at left tackle.
Yeah.
I also think it's because Rasheed Walker, your starting left tackle last couple of seasons, it looked like today he was taking the day off. Maybe he had strained something, trying to be careful, but he might be slightly injured, and so that gave Morgan more snaps at left tackle out there when Jordan Love and those guys were out there. Hey, before I forget about it, one key thing to talk about the Jair Alexander story is this. So, we know about the knee injury against the Jaguars. We know that he tried to get on for about 10 snaps down in Chicago against the Bears and said, I can't, there's too much pain. We have a sense, just in talking to sources from around the team that, it looked like the team said, we think you're ready to go, Jair. And he's like, I don't think I'm there yet. So and Jair has not said a word, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been, if you will, very professional like that. I imagine his agent would be very happy about that. They've held their cards close to their vest. But then when the season's over with and they lose to the Eagles and they're cleaning out their lockers, he walks by, and this is on videotape from one of the TV stations. He say, "You don't talk to me. I don't know if I'm going to be back." He was frustrated and storming out the door.
He said, I don't think I'd have anything good to say anyways.
I don't think I have anything good to say. That's right. That's right. But whatever, kind of uncharacteristic, and that's it. There's outside of a video of him working out with Xavier McKinney, outside of coaches saying, we're in contact with him, outside of Xavier McKinney saying, I've become friends with the guy, and this is a business, and I'm prepared that he may be, playing for somebody else, but it seemed like the players and the position coaches were doing everything to say, come on, Jair, stay here.
Yep.
Don't go on the market. Stay here. Take a haircut. Go for incentives and whatever. They want you. They want you upstairs. They're not done with you. And he wasn't it. So then it comes down to this past Sunday afternoon. And when he came in, Goody was here for him on Sunday, and they sat down face to face and talked about it. And Gutekunst, when we talked to him the day after the release had happened, and he came over and talked to us in a kind of a place where they store weights, he said, look, there wasn't much drama here. Him and Russ Ball had figured out, all right, 7 games tops available the last 2 seasons. How much money have we lost on this deal? How much do we owe him in this season? How much do we value this player's potential performance for this season? So they made up their line. They made their walk away money. Like, we're not going to pay more than this, in 25 for this player at what's happened 3 of the last 4 seasons. They present that to the agent, and there's like, oh, no, we've got a contract. Yeah, we're not talking. Okay. And it was crickets for the next 2 or 3 months. There wasn't much else to say. The player and the agent said, no, we've got a contract with you, and we'll just stick with that. And the team was like, well, we're not budging. This is what we value, your player at. And it got down to Sunday, and probably a cordial meeting, but after that, Jair had one last chance to change his mind. He didn't, and so they said, okay. And they put him on the wire and released him on Monday.
So Mike Clemens joining us, kind of wrap up mandatory minicamp this week. The big storyline then on Monday and into Tuesday as practices started was, okay, well, what's left at corner, right? Valentine, Nixon, Hobbs, who was just brought in, and some other younger players who were just drafted. What did you see from that group? And I know you talked to all of your comrades in the Packers beat. What kind of conversations and observations were you guys having, and what were you seeing in the group that remains, the group that the Packers will rely on to cover opposing wide receivers this fall?
They're really strong at safety. Was Xavier McKinney back there?
That helps.
Evan Williams, healthy. That Evan Williams kid is so smart and so sharp. And if he can just figure out a way this year to stay on the field himself, instead of taking some of these hits that he's taken that just knocked him out for 3 or 4 weeks during the season. And then I know that the position coaches, and from what I hear from them and some of his teammates, they're really high on Javon Bullard as a physical guy.
Well, he was a second round pick, right? It's not like he was a throw of a dart on day 3 of the draft.
Yeah. I mean, they think that he could punish people. Every Legion of Boom kind of a guy, and so they would love to be able to free him up in order to exactly do that. Put some hurt on the running back, or a slot guy trying to go over the middle, and take people out, because he likes to hit people. And then that takes the pressure off of Keyshawn and whoever's going to be the other starting corner, probably Valentine. I don't know if Hobbs is going to be there. So they can just focus on, let's take out the number 1 and 2 speed guys, and then any tight end or somebody else like that, Javon can be back there along with the linebackers to take care of. So in that part, they look pretty good. Now, whether or not Carrington Valentine can truly step up, because he's had some great plays, and he's made some bad assignments. I was watching tape of that game against the Vikings up in Minnesota, where he got burned, he got lost, and Naylor, the wide receiver, was wide open. You saw Jair blow some coverages in that game.
Yeah.
While most of the time he'd shut down Justin Jefferson for a majority of snaps. So that's the overall feel of the whole team, Grant. It's like, well, we got all these guys. You got Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. Pretty good. But who's going to really ascend to being an A-plus person, a player? At the end of the day, if you really think you're going to the Super Bowl, don't you have to have 1 or 2 players on your team that you say,
yep,
that guy is the best at his position in the NFL? Because for years, you've said, well, we got Aaron Rodgers. We got David Bakhtiari at their left tackle. We got Kenny Clark, one of the better guys up there. Or, before that, Clay Matthews and all that. And now, who do the Pack? When you look at the teams that are in the Super Bowl, if you're talking about Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter, who might be, the next Aaron Donald on the defensive line for the Eagles, and that offensive line, and they do the tush push better than anybody else on 4th and 1. So what do the Packers have? Who's the best at their position in the league right now? I can only come up with one name, and that's McKinney.
Okay.
You could probably make an argument he's one of the best safeties in the NFC, if not in the league. Anybody else, are they actually the best at their position? I don't think they've got that guy right now.
So forget about that threshold. And it's funny you say that. And maybe you were listening last night, because I had a caller make that exact point. You look at Super Bowl champions and you can point best in the league, at positions scattered throughout. I don't know that Edgerrin Cooper is on track to be that.
Could be, though.
But it could be. I mean, dare to dream, but he could be a tier beneath that. Like, let's talk about going from very good player to great, or to game breaker. What did you see from Edgerrin Cooper this week?
Just a guy following assignments, I mean,
understanding and processing better than last year, because I know that was an issue for him early.
Yeah. Not enough data to tell.
Okay.
Really not enough data to tell. And again, even though some of these 11-11s, I mean, it looked like it was 3/4 speed to me,
Okay.
there's just not enough data to tell that someone is just blowing through the line or chasing the quarterback. The one thing that stood out though, and this happened last week on a pass to Jaden Reed, and then yesterday we're watching practice, and you're looking at the depth of the receivers, and you got quarterbacks and receivers lining up, 8, 9, 10 deep, going out for crossers, going out for flags, going out for fades, and then you say, number 6, McCole Hardman. I mean, how's he going to make this team? Is he just going to be here for returns? And no sooner do you say that than toward the end of practice, Jordan Love sends him deep and hits him like 60 yards in the air. And I think that actually the team posted that video.
They did.
In a way that you couldn't see what the formation was, but you could see how tight the spiral was and how he just nailed it. And it's like, I haven't seen that ball in 3 or 4 years here, since Rodgers was here. And if you were talking about, the first year that Rodgers was gone and it was Jordan Love out there, that's a 50-50 ball. And I don't mean that's because the defender's got a shot at it. It's 50-50 the ball's going to land in the same zip code.
Sure.
But, I mean, he's been nailing some of those deep passes so far, so good. So that, to me, is one of the things that's made one of the biggest impressions at this minicamp.
2 guys, we got about 2 or 3 minutes here. What did you see from Matthew Golden? And then I know one more guy. We talked about this on Monday. You were excited to see Marshawn Lloyd. So what did you see from him too?
Golden, again, the thing that strikes you the most is when he gets out there and lines up with the other guys in the receiver group. He's a smaller guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is a smaller guy, but the speed is there. And the technique, the form, very nice glide. I don't like one guy that just jumped out at the rookie mini camp, at the OTAs, at the full mini camps like that was a guy named Greg Jennings. I mean, we just could not get over the passes he was pulling in from Favre, and to say this guy looks like he's been here 5 years.
Yeah,
where's he from again? And but Golden is close to that. He's close to that kind of style, that kind of mechanics when he brings the ball in, grips it. And that part, has been pretty impressive. Marshawn Lloyd, finally got to see him, do some reps. Nothing too fancy, but you could see the burst. And again, LaFleur was asked about him again for a second time, and he's just said we have seen enough on tape that that had us excited. I mean, even though they used a 3rd-round pick out of USC last year, and then he had the 2 or 3 injuries and the appendicitis, and obviously he's got to be available. But they think that I think they think that he's got a shot at being their number 2 running back.
So things now subside until late July. I don't remember the exact date, but the last week of July or so when training camp starts. Should Packers fans expect anything in terms of extensions or contract adjustments, say, to Elton Jenkins or Zach Tom? Or should we basically just power down and not expect anything until training camp?
Well, I asked, frankly, feeding off of your callers, I asked Brian Gutekunst at the end of this little 5-6 minute thing that he did, I said, people are going to say, if you got $45 million in your salary cap,
yep,
why aren't you bringing back Jair Alexander? And he said, we have other things to do. And he basically reiterated, if the guy had been more available 3 of the last 4 years, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
He said in that answer, he said, if something comes up, he hinted at, things, chances might come up. And then he also hinted separately at some guys here who were in the bit, making it sound like they were ready to extend guys. So I heard 2 different he was alluding to 2 different things in that answer.
And we don't think, he would do, a big free agency move at this point in the market unless, we don't expect some sort of mega blockbuster deal. But at the very least, the one that's right in front of you is Elton Jenkins. And then maybe Zach Tom, an early deal for Zach Tom, pay him now before you have to pay him more later on, your right tackle. And that could be what he's referring to. And I just know that, they're interested in signing their guys too. And, they always talk about that. So they're not going to just let that money just sit there on the table. They'll find ways to best utilize it. But there truly is, there's this sense a year ago at this time, Grant, it's after the win over the Cowboys and coming within 6 minutes away of beating the 49ers, it's like, oh, man, we're just one step away.
Yep.
We're one step away. And instead, all this spring, through what they say, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves, they're not sure who they are. They lost their last 3 games. And they've brought in a couple of new pieces. They've lost just 1 or 2, like a TJ Slayton, like their center, Josh Myers. But they're really not quite sure about this. And yet there clearly is a higher sense of, maybe if the confidence or the swagger's not there, there's more of that sense of urgency, like we all have to prove ourselves because none of us know what's going on. Everyone's looking over their shoulder. Oh, and on top of that, Mark Murphy said goodbye today. It was his last practice.
Yeah, that was cool.
And LaFleur said, okay, if Brandon McManus can make this 50-yard field goal, and they had the dummies and some hula hoop rings and stuff all set up for some grinding final drill to drill these guys after almost 2 hours out there in some pretty hot sun. He said, but we'll call off this, period 13 drill. So, your place kicker lines up, step, plant, kick, boom, and he nailed it. I mean, it could have gone 60 yards, and the team was just all cheering, like, okay, you don't have to do the drill. But then he called everybody in, and he brought in Mark Murphy, who was standing out there at practice, and Ed Policy, who's going to be the new president CEO, he was out there too. And then LaFleur presented him a helmet that all the players had autographed upstairs, in the locker room, as kind of a token of their appreciation and saying goodbye to Murphy today, because that was his last practice as president and CEO. They'll hand over the keys to Ed Policy when they have the shareholders meeting.
And that was a pretty cool video. I know the Packers socials posted some stuff too, so I would recommend to go check that out. Mike, we will get your final report of the week 10:30 tomorrow with Bill.
Talk to you then.
Thank you, Mike. That's Mike Clemens, courtesy of the Bay Motel in Green Bay, baymotelgreenbay.com, South Military Avenue, just mile less away from Lambeau Field. We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show. Final segment of the week because I'm off tomorrow. Next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Final segment. Very appreciative of Mike Clemens and his time covering mandatory minicamp this week. Always a pleasure to get him on. And that comment that he made just kind of on his way out the door, kind of a doorknob comment as you're headed out, saying, yeah, this team last year, riding the high of that close loss to the Niners, feeling like they're one step away. And this offseason, they don't really know who they are. And I didn't take that necessarily in a negative way. I didn't hear that as if they were having some sort of identity crisis or they felt like they weren't good anymore. I heard that as a reminder probably for a young team that this league and all professional sports leagues will humble you out of nowhere if you're not consistently working to prove yourself and establish yourself. And I don't even think that was their issue last year, but I think last year some of those young guys realized it doesn't always work out. Like, it's not always that easy. Maybe like it felt in their rookie year. They only won one playoff game, but for that group, I mean, may as well have won the Super Bowl. Maybe a little bit of an attitude adjustment, or probably better phrased, a perspective adjustment. Think of it that way. I will be off tomorrow, so I'll be back on Monday, and we could talk about 4-game set over the Cardinals. We could talk about Misiorowski's debut. Enjoy that tonight. I have things to address in my inner circle. Going to visit my parents for a weekend. So have a great weekend. Appreciate you listening. Podcast will go up in just a little bit.
On the white